So the beautiful thing about the first Red Dead Redemption is there's this scene at the end where you break into the barn and you're trying to save his kid. When you're in a barn and you've got to take down the outlaws, but the door's open and you realise you just can't save him. There's no saving. You just can't, nothing you can do about it. It's so sad.
Sorry, were you saying something important? Probably not.
Now, full disclosure here, the original Red Dead Redemption is one of my favourite games of all time. I'll be honest with you, just like you might have heard me telling that barmaid earlier, I cried a little bit playing that game. Such was the brilliance of it, and so invested was I with the characters and the story. It was a really sad moment. Red Dead followed the life of John Marston as he tried to bring his old outlaw gang to justice. It was set in 1911. Now, this is the time when cowboys were swapping their horses for cars. The Old West was dying away, and players explored this changing landscape, guiding Marston as he tried to outrun his past. 8 years since that release, a bunch of awards later, and now Red Dead Redemption 2 is ready to launch. And along with lots of other people, I am very excited. It takes us back 11 years before the first game and introduces us to a new outlaw, Arthur Morgan. So the world that fans will play through in this prequel will be a lot different to what came before. And back here in our reality, things have changed too.
And not just because we're in this amazing Western theme bar either. No, technology and video games have moved much further forward since the previous game, so the new one has not only got to, encapsulate all the essence and what made the first game great, but also bring something new and quite meaty to the table.
Here in Rockstar North, that's the part of the company based in Edinburgh, we're meeting one of the brains behind the game, one who's also worked on the company's other major series, Grand Theft Auto.
All of our games build on all of the games that have come before them. And this game, I think more than any other, is a product of every game that we've made, hopefully, all the good bits of the games we've made and the things that we've tried to do. I think going back to even before I was around and Grand Theft Auto 3 and that feeling of that game that I had and I think other people had where it surprised you and you were just like, well, I can get out of the car, I can walk around, I can drive and interact with this world, and I think it was a sort of huge leap forward, and I think that was the thing that drew me to this company and this team and this way of making games, and so I think we were always striving for that with every game we make and building on what's come before.
So you were mentioning there that Grand Theft Auto was a big leap, or Grand Theft Auto 3 was a big leap forward in the industry at the time.
I think so. Yeah. I think other people would agree with that.
So do you think, and is that the aim for this title then, to have a similar sort of impact in terms of a leap forward, do you think?
I think a leap forward for ourselves, it's for other people to decide whether it's a leap forward for games, The desire to make these worlds more believable and more interactive and deeper is what drives us.
The thing about the first Red Dead Redemption is that while it's still pretty incredible by today's standards, and especially in terms of the atmosphere and a lot of the storytelling stuff, some of the gameplay is actually quite dated because of so many advancements that have been made in open world design since 2010 when it came out. I think open world fatigue is potentially a problem. I mean, this year alone we've had Forza Horizon 4, Assassin's Creed Odyssey, Red Dead Redemption 2 is coming out, Spider-Man, probably some more as well. These massive games offer like amazing value for money, but they can also, you can only play a couple of them per year before you get completely sick of chasing 100 collectibles across a map.
One of the reasons why especially game developers don't touch on the Wild West is that it's actually a really highly politically charged time period. And it's a time period that has a lot of references to American identity. It's a real touchstone for a lot of people, these ideas of going west and creating your own destiny and kind of forging yourself. These still have a lot of repercussions now.
of the biggest changes in the past 8 years has been the supposed death of the single player. I mean, even Call of Duty just completely removed it from their entire game, so maybe there is something in that.
And that is despite the success of games like The Last of Us, God of War, Bloodborne, basically single player experiences. Apparently, they're going out of fashion.
Is it just because online multiplayer games have become more popular? I don't know. We decided to go and find out.
How important is a good story for you in your games? Because there is an argument to say the industry is sort of moving away from them now, that story-driven games are becoming less popular. It's all about online these days.
I mean, a good story is extremely important, but a believable world is most important, you know, and the story is part of that. But I think this, for us, what we really wanted to push for on this game, I think, was making sure that the story didn't feel like it started and stopped when you were engaging with it, doing, you know, quote unquote missions or story missions, and then you were sort of playing two characters, the character that does the story and then your character that goes out in the world and does what you want to do. We wanted to try to continue, I think, hopefully as we always do, but to blur those lines, and the game is the story, you know, and the story is the game, so that he's still that character when you take him out into the wilderness and you're doing things out there, whether it's hunting or it's robbing people or helping people to earn money for that gang to support the larger story and the sense of place. It's all about creating a sense of place that's believable.
The other challenge that single-player designers have is that with all these multiplayer games, it's really easy to go get a really quick hit of adrenaline from playing a game like Fortnite or Call of Duty. So single-player developers can't waste your time, they can't mess you around, because they know that at any moment you could shut down and go and play something which can give you that really quick hit.
I think one thing that Rockstar do particularly well is they really put in a lot of detail. They kind of create a world, and they're faithful to the world they create. It's not necessarily the world we know, but what they create, they put a lot of detail into. They put a lot of sense of history of the place into it. They build these worlds of incredible detail that I think is really impressive.
So I had the chance to play Red Dead Redemption 2 for about 4 hours the other day, so here are some things to look out for in the game. It's an experience that really makes you feel like you're actually there, that you're immersed in the world.
Out of his hair once and for all.
You really get to care about these characters that you interact with. This game is big. It has a lot to do, lots of places to visit, and it's going to be easy to get lost in it. It might be worth booking some time off work.
Anyway, I got caught by some hill country sheriff stealing a chicken, I think.
The game is noticeably slower paced than other open world titles out there at the moment. Now, I was a fan of that, but others might not be. The Deadeye shooting system is back, and it's just as much fun to play with as I remember from the first game.
Where I come from, ace is always one.
In Kansas, an ace is always an 11.
Well, we ain't in Kansas.
Hey, I'm cheating. Who's the one who had cards up their sleeves last night? Oh, it was me.
You know, I'm kind of getting used to this cowboy life, you know. I can really see myself doing it long term.
Well, you ain't no cowboy yet till you master one of these. Sit on it.
It's been a while.
Good boy.
Oh, yeah.
And that, I think, was something worthy of Clint Eastwood. Off on
Is it though?
Come on.
I don't think it is.
Good boy, Richie. Here we go. We couldn't talk about Red Dead Redemption really without mentioning these guys. And Rockstar saying that they want this game to be the most realistic open world ever made.
I know, and if you like an open world, you want that little bit of realism. I mean, look at us. We've come all the way down here just to be on a horse for 5 minutes.
Yeah. In the game, of course, Arthur Morgan, if you eat too much, he gets fat. If you don't eat enough, he gets skinny. You've got to shave. If you don't wash often enough, he starts to smell and people won't talk to you.
Did
really
you
realistic.
know, Steph, that if you... Hold on a minute there. If you go somewhere cold, your horse's testicles will shrink.
did they? Imagine.
Yeah.
Imagine being the animator that had to work on that for a couple of months. Come on, Woody, off the company.
I mean, I probably wouldn't tell people that at dinner parties.
No,
No.
probably best.
Now, it's one of the most realistic games you've ever made. I played it, my character didn't wash, and people were shunning me in the street because I smelled.
Yeah.
You know, what is it about wanting to make a game as hyper realistic as possible?
I think we want it to feel realistic, but we don't necessarily want it to be realistic. So, say an approach that we took with the weapons. You know, we wanted the weapons to it's a slightly slower paced world than, say, Grand Theft Auto. You know, you don't have sports cars and machine guns, you know. So we wanted the
There
weapons.
weren't many sports cars around in the Wild
Not
West.
many. But you know, you want the weapons to feel important and like they mean something. And so we decided to, you know, go with what we would call a limited loadout. You only have what you can see on you, which is a slightly different approach than we've taken in the past. And then even how the guns work, cocking and firing, and they're slower and the reloads are more realistic. Skinning of animals, you can actually see yourself, see the skin coming off. It represents a lot more work for us as developers to take on those challenges, but they hopefully all combine to make you feel like you are that person in that place doing those things and you're not being jarred out of the experience. What we did find is, you know, we had to be careful not to go too far. If you make that skinning take too long, is it going to annoy people? If that reload takes too long, even if it's realistic, it's annoying. Realism can be annoying. The real world is annoying, and I think that's why a lot of people play games, to escape.
I don't think anybody would actually want to play a historically accurate, historically realistic game because it would be incredibly slow. It would probably take you days to travel anywhere. It was, you know, if you're shot, you know, if that's pretty much game over, or you may have to deal with a rather nasty infection, which isn't very fun. A lot of the research probably won't even end up in the game, but it helps the developers kind of understand a kind of sense of place and a sense of time.
Uptown? It's the last time I catch you stealing from my register.
Ada, what are you doing? Ada, we're supposed to do this on
I'm starting to feel the pressure of like what Rockstar has got to pull off. I mean, it's a huge thing with everybody watching them, and they've got to nail it. It's like their whole reputation is on the line.
I think for me, the big thing, I haven't had a chance to have a go of it as well, is just how slow the game is. You know, like compared to all the big AAA games out there, they come and punch you in the face with all the action straight off the front.
I mean, you can speed things up a little bit. You haven't got to walk at a snail's pace. You know, these things do go a little bit faster.
This is about as fast as Red Dead Redemption 2, to be fair.
Let's go, let's go.
And I'm perfectly happy with the pace of which Woody's walked. There we are.
You mean stand still? Is that
Okay.
your favourite pace?
Go. Oh, Woody. Help. You gonna move?